Good morning and welcome to this morning's presentation, which is all about innovating to create business value. So I'm Owen Tracy. I'm going to be one of your presenters here today. Just by way of introductions, as I mentioned, I'm principal in the Melbourne office. I've been with A.T. Kearney for about 10 years, and my background is in the communications, media, and technology practice.
I'm Benoît Nactogan, also from the Melbourne office. My main area of focus is consumer goods and retail.
I'm a VP in the Melbourne office. My focus is really procurement and analytics. There are now 7 billion mobile phone subscriptions globally. That's more than every man, woman and child in the world. Half of those have mobile broadband. There have been 100 billion downloads of Apple apps. There is a massive change occurring right now. That's a threat to a lot of established businesses, but I think it's a huge opportunity for those that really can ride the wave in three very distinct ways. The first is around the rise of the omnichannel. This is moving from organizations being product focused and becoming far more customer focused. And this connected consumer has expectations around a far more consistent and seamless experience, regardless of the channel they choose to use. And their expectations also now is the experience of whatever channel I use seamless, but the experience I get is far more tailored and specific to my needs. And that's forcing organizations to really look beyond their own four walls on how they innovate and actually looking to external partners to help them in their innovation.
So when it comes to omnichannel, the first point is to recognize that the consumers today are provided multiple channels, and increasingly number of channels in which they can interact with their preferred brand. When we look at what makes a good omnichannel experience in the eyes of the consumer, there are 5 key attributes. The first one is convenience. Time-strapped consumers are expecting convenience. We are in the area of everything at every time, everywhere. Whatever the touch point and the channel they decide to use to interact with their preferred brand, they will get consistent interaction and continuity of the relationship. People are more and more inclined to share personal data and personal information, and we can just see on Facebook, on all the social medias, the explosion of personal information that people are ready to release. The same thing happened with the companies. We are more and more ready to release information, but in exchange, we expect the companies to act upon it and to make something very relevant. So the customer doesn't want to release control on his decision. What he expects, and he will give his loyalty to the brands, which can empower him, giving him the information needed for me to make the right decision. Agility. That's where the customers expect that their preferred brands really swiftly adapt to the change in the trends, the change in behaviors, the new technologies. At the core of their capabilities is they've been able to develop an integrated ecosystem, and linking it to their virtual payment system, they are able to capture every interaction with the customer. So when you come and shop at Apple, usually they will ask you for your email address so that they can send you your invoice electronically, and that way, they can capture in their CRM all the interactions with you. Same thing, obviously, when you buy online. At the center of the omnichannel experience is the ability to integrate the information and the insights of the customer and be able to act upon it. And Sam will explain some of the lessons from others on how do we get it right.
That makes the capturing of information very difficult. One of the challenges, and again, Benoît touched on earlier, is often you end up with duplication of data. So there's no longer now a single source of truth. Solutions. There are examples of companies that have said, we're going to go and do a fundamental rebuild of our entire IT structure. Clearly, that is a major, if not Herculean, undertaking. We've had channels appear that we probably wouldn't even dream of. So the question is, where will we be in another 10 years' time? Will be new channels coming to light? And are we at risk of spending all this money and actually in 10 years from now having now more discrete IT systems being back to square one? What we're seeing is a number of them actually becoming far more agile and using data analytics to provide some real great customer insights. There's a hotel aggregator in the States which identifies if you're a Mac user or not when you go to the aggregator site. And if you're a Mac user, you're offered more expensive rooms than if you're a non-Mac user, because they believe and recognise that Mac users typically are more affluent. The traditional way of deciding where stores go has not been a heavy analytical approach. But actually you can start to look at your various store profiles, where your demographics are, and actually saying there are better places to put those stores. So we're seeing a big change in that to really drive revenue. There's a lot of usage of social media data. Twitter and Facebook are two big examples. And what we're seeing is organizations saying we can take this really unstructured data and actually try and, now with some of the analytical tools available, pull some real insights out.
So what have we learned? How do we innovate to create business value? It's about creating that omni-channel experience and then driving consistent behavior through it. It's about getting those streams of data right and then creating those actionable insights as a result. We used to talk about speed to market. Now we're talking about windows of innovation. Basically, if you missed a window, then it's gone. The opportunity isn't there afterwards. So there's a few key messages here. The first is speed matters. The second is you can't do it yourself. And the third is you need to do something different. And what do you do different? That's this concept of open innovation. And the simple definition is it's using the capabilities and expertise of others to enhance your own innovation process. So some examples. We've got the classic one, so employees, the Google 20% project. Engineers can work 20% of their time on a project of their own choosing. Skunkworks, call it what you want. Innocentive. This one's actually really interesting. Some of you might be aware of it already. It's essentially taking 300,000 what we call innovators, which is a collection of engineers, people in academia, people in other industries, and it's given them that workbench. And on the other side then you get some big names. You get some big logos like NASA, Procter & Gamble, and they will inject a business problem into this community, and then there's a defined process to get to an answer, and then there's a commercial outcome at the end of it. A.T. Kearney. We actually get involved in this quite a bit. So we've got a really good relationship with Carnegie Mellon, and we call this concept bringing the boardroom into the classroom. But then you've got something called a Muradi, which is really around, well, let's seed the market. Let's stimulate it. Let's shape it. We don't want to take a controlling equity stake, but maybe let's inject some capital. Sure, we'll take a little bit of a 5% stake, so we stay involved and we care. And if we look at something like machine-to-machine or really catchy title of Internet of Things, we're starting to see these huge ecosystems being developed. And I mentioned Vodafone. So Vodafone has created a network of 350 partners. That's incredible. If you sat down and drew the same slide last year, and I have a funny feeling I did, but that number would have been about 250. So to put that in context, they're adding a new partner every 2 to 3 business days. Okay? We know so much about our customers, and that mobile phone that you have in your pocket, that's the source of a lot of it. I mean, short of the government, telco probably has the next greatest set of information all about you. A lot of people's relationship with their telco is a bit like their relationship with the tax office. It's ubiquitous, it's going to happen, but it mightn't be the first name on the Christmas card list. So how do you then partner with these companies that have great engagement with their customers? So they pick sports, okay? So one example they have is the Phoenix Suns basketball team, so an NBA team in the US. And what they did is the Phoenix Suns said, look, omni-channel, big data, we think we have that right. Our customers can see what's going on. They've got live streams into the stadium. However, what we don't have is we don't know what happens to our customers when they walk back out that door. So the specific issue or question they put to Verizon was, how can we increase the effectiveness of our marketing spend? Let's pick a marketer. Let's pick Burger King, for instance. They didn't track that demographic for the next 3 days. And you create these really cool visual maps which show Burger King. These are your 300 stores. This is a 200-meter radius, and we can actually show you, for your target demographic, whether or not they go through these geo-boundaries, how close they actually come towards your locations. And what can you do with that information? Well, you can actually give them targeted offers. The omni-channel experience. It's about making customers want to engage, and it's then about driving consistent behavior and consistent performance across those channels. It's about the seamless flow of information. We've got insightful analytics. I would argue analytics are pretty useless without deriving some insight from it. If you literally do not have a corporate capability around this, then it's just words on a page.